Researchers tracking adults who report feeling hopeless nearly every day found something striking. Over half of them also had high blood pressure. Hopelessness isn't just an emotion. It measurably wears down the body carrying it. Now here's the part almost nobody talks about. The Bible has an entire story built specifically for people who've stopped expecting an answer. Not people with small, manageable problems. People standing in front of something they'd already declared completely over. If that's where you are today, this story was recorded for you specifically. You prayed about this for years. Maybe you don't even bring it up in prayer as urgently anymore, because somewhere along the way, hoping started to hurt more than accepting it was over. Maybe it's a diagnosis that hasn't changed, a family member who hasn't come home, a marriage that's been surviving, not thriving, for so long you forgot what thriving even looked like. A dream you buried quietly because watching it stay dead was easier than watching it keep disappointing you. You still believe God exists. You're just not sure you believe He's going to do anything about this specific thing. And that quiet, exhausted kind of doubt is so much harder to admit than losing your faith completely. Because from the outside, you still look fine. This story is in John chapter 11. Not a parable, not a symbol, but an account with named people. Mary, Martha, their brother Lazarus, and a crowd of witnesses who watched the entire thing unfold in real time. That if Jesus addressed hopelessness this directly with people who trusted Him and still ended up devastated, He's addressing yours too. Here's the detail that changes everything about this story, and most people miss it completely. When Jesus got word that Lazarus was sick, John tells us plainly, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Then, in the very next sentence, so, when He heard that Lazarus was ill, He stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Read that again. Not, even though He loved them, He delayed. The text says so. Because He loved them, He stayed. The delay wasn't despite His love. It was somehow connected to it. This is the part that's almost unbearable to sit with. Sometimes the waiting you're in isn't a sign God has forgotten you. It's not proof He doesn't care enough to act sooner. Whatever is happening in the delay is happening on purpose. Even when it looks and feels exactly like abandonment from where you're standing, that I'm not going to pretend that's an easy thing to hear when you're the one waiting. It wasn't easy for Mary and Martha either. You'll hear exactly how hard in a minute. But here's the practical idea for today. Instead of asking, why hasn't God moved yet? Try asking a different question. What if the timing itself is part of what He's doing, not a failure to do anything at all? You don't have to feel the answer to that question today. You just have to be willing to ask it instead of the other one. But even understanding the delay doesn't undo how far gone the situation had become by the time Jesus finally arrived. By the time Jesus arrived, Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. In that culture, this detail mattered enormously. There was a belief that a person's spirit lingered near the body for 3 days, hoping for revival, then departed for good on the 4th. 4 days wasn't just sad. It was the culturally agreed upon point of absolutely no return. When Jesus asked for the stone to be rolled away, Martha, practical, grieving, and honest, said the thing everyone was thinking but too polite to say out loud. Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being accurate. By every physical, cultural, and emotional measure available to her in that moment. This situation was not just difficult. It was finished. Here's the bold claim worth sitting with. Your situation being too far gone, by every measure you have access to, is not the same thing as it being too far gone for God. Martha had every reasonable, evidence-based reason to believe hope was no longer appropriate. She was right about the facts. She was wrong about what the facts meant for what could still happen. Practical idea. Name, specifically, the 4 days marker in your own situation. The exact reason you've told yourself this is over. The specific test result, the specific number of years, the specific thing that convinced you it's too late. Don't erase that reason. Just hold it next to this story instead of letting it be the final word on its own. But before Jesus did anything about the situation, he did something almost nobody expects from someone who already knew how this story would end. This is the shortest verse in the entire Bible, and one of the most overlooked. Jesus wept. Here's what makes this almost impossible to fully process. Jesus already knew he was about to raise Lazarus from the dead. He said as much earlier in the chapter. And he still stood at that tomb and wept, genuinely, visibly, in front of the mourning crowd. This tells you something about God that a lot of people never actually absorb. Knowing the outcome will be good doesn't mean he skips feeling the pain of where you are right now. He doesn't rush past your grief to get to the miracle. He stands inside the grief with you first. If you've been waiting so long that you've started to feel like your pain is somehow inconvenient to God, like you should be further along in faith by now, here's the truth: this moment gives you permission to hold. Your grief is not an obstacle to what God is doing. It's something he enters into with you, not something you have to get through alone before he shows up. Practical idea: stop editing your prayers to sound more hopeful than you actually feel. Tell God exactly where you are today, the exhaustion, the doubt, the anger if it's there, the same unfiltered way Martha and Mary both did. He wept at a tomb he was about to empty. He can handle your honesty about a situation he hasn't resolved yet. And what Martha says right before all of this happens might be the most quietly relatable line in the entire story. When Martha first meets Jesus on the road, she says something remarkable in its honesty. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." That's grief. That's disappointment. That's almost an accusation. And in the very same breath, she says, "But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." That's faith. Real, active faith, sitting directly next to real, unresolved disappointment. In the same sentence, from the same person, in the same moment. Here's the bold claim: you don't have to choose between having faith and being honest about your doubt. Martha modeled both at once, and Jesus didn't correct her or ask her to pick one. He met her exactly there, holding both. If you felt like a hypocrite for praying, "I trust you," while also thinking, "But I don't understand why this is happening," that tension isn't spiritual failure. According to this story, it might be closer to the most honest kind of faith there is. Practical idea: today, pray a sentence structured exactly like Martha's. Name your disappointment directly. Then, in the same breath, name what you still believe is true about God, even if you can't feel it fully right now. Let both be true at once, out loud. But belief alone isn't where this story ends. There's one more piece, the part that involves you, not just God. Before Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb, he gave an instruction to the people standing there. Take away the stone. Not, "Watch me take away the stone." Take it away, an actual physical action given to ordinary people before the miracle happened. This detail matters more than it first appears. Jesus didn't need anyone's help moving a stone to raise the dead, but he still involved them in an act of obedience before the impossible thing happened. As if faith in the middle of waiting isn't only a feeling you have, but also something you do with your hands while you're still waiting for the outcome. What's your version of take away the stone right now? Maybe it's making the appointment you've been avoiding, reaching out to the relationship you gave up on reaching toward, actually praying about the situation again instead of quietly deciding it's closed. It's rarely something dramatic. It's usually something small, practical, and slightly uncomfortable. An act of obedience before you see any evidence it will matter. Practical idea: identify one small, physical stone you've been leaving in place because moving it feels pointless. Move it this week, not because it guarantees the outcome, but because it's the posture this story asks of the people still standing outside the tomb, waiting. Let's bring this together simply. The delay you're in might not be neglect. It might be purposeful, even if you can't see why yet. Too far gone, by every measure you have, is not the same as too far gone for God. Your grief isn't something to hide from him. He enters it with you before he changes anything. Faith and doubt can sit in the same sentence, honestly, without disqualifying either one. And somewhere in your waiting, there's probably a stone you're being asked to move, even before you see the outcome. At the start, I told you research links daily hopelessness to real, measurable harm on the body carrying it. Now you know this story exists specifically for that exhaustion, not for people with easy, manageable problems, but for people standing in front of something they'd already called finished. 4 days dead was not the end of Lazarus' story. Whatever your version of 4 days is, it doesn't get the final word either. Not because the pain isn't real, but because nothing you're facing is outside what this story already answered. This week, do one thing. Name your stone and move it, even without seeing the outcome yet. If this message spoke to you today, subscribe. We keep talking about what really matters here every week. And if you know someone who's quietly stopped expecting an answer to something they've been carrying a long time, send them this message today. It might be exactly what brings the hope back.